Welcome to the WWE podcast, guys. Tonight, it is all about Money in the Bank. We're going to preview the show in its entirety, match by match, with Grace, who has joined us before, and she's graced us with her presence. See what I did there? All right, that was just awful. But, guys, it's all about Money in the Bank, and we're going to get everything going right after this. Knightverse is an NFT project with the focus in gaming. When you play the game, you earn more NFTs like heroes and armor, which you can sell after for real money. Join the Discord server. There's a link right in the description of this show. So go check out the Knightverse. It's an NFT project, guys. And again, the link is directly in the description of this show. Go check it out right now.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is Friday, July 1st, 2022. I told you June goes fast. I said it at the beginning. I said this is the fastest month of the year. It's like it doesn't exist. And here we are. It's July. After this, it's all about... but after July, guys, it's, of course, about SummerSlam, but also it's about football. Right? If you're interested in football, that's right around the corner, as are the baseball playoffs in just a couple months. It's crazy, right? We just got into freaking summer, and I'm already talking about fall. But let's enjoy while it's here, and we're going to talk about wrestling in just a second with Grace, who has joined us once again here on the WWE Podcast with Money in the Bank tomorrow night. We have a lot to get through, and we have a review show that's coming up. I'm going to try to do the review show directly following the event. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes I literally fall asleep in the middle of the show just because dad life. But I will make an effort to do that. If not, it'll be early Sunday that I will get a review out to you. I promise. I'm going to try to give that review as quickly as I can. It's just not always feasible. But that's what's going to be going on the next couple of days, guys. Of course, our SmackDown review is going to be posted shortly after this show. You should see it in the feed by the time you see this one. And also, guys, we have the WWE Slam. That's my video show that I do every single Saturday night at 8 p.m. I know it's going to kind of fall in the middle of the event this week, but I would really encourage you to check it out. It's also on demand on the DuPont Network. So go to DuPont, DuPont, now.com, get yourself signed up, and you can watch me for an hour rant about wrestling. That's stuff that you don't hear or see anywhere else. It's not on Patreon. It's not on Apple Podcasts. It's not on my website. This is exclusive to the DuPont Network that we're trying to expand into, and I'm really excited about it. I encourage you to go check that out. So, alrighty, everybody. One more thing. Go ad-free, guys. You want to be in the Discord server. It's a place you want to be. It is where the cool kids are going to be, is in the Discord server tomorrow night when the pay-per-view is going on. And you can get yourself in that server if you sign up on patreon.com/WWE podcast. For $1, you get in the door. All right. Well, that is it, guys. Let's get to Grace and myself discussing the Money in the Bank event. A lot of fun talking with Grace. And by the way, check out her Evolutionary Wrestling podcast. And guys, I will talk to you next time. Welcome to the Money in the Bank preview and prediction show, everybody. And tonight I've got a returning co-host. You guys have heard her before. She's got her own podcast too. Grace is back with us. How you doing, Grace?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be back on.
Yeah, me too. And it's certainly going to be a big event tomorrow night. I was screwed up the whole week because I thought for some reason it was on a Sunday. I'm still getting used to these like Saturday deals after being a wrestling fan for 25 years. I'm like, it's drilled into your head that it's a Sunday. But so it's tomorrow night, everybody. In case you're like me and you're absent-minded, it is tomorrow night on the WWE Network. So, but before we get going, Grace, I want to ask you about your podcast because I know that you've recently started one, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so we're on most podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, stuff like that. We are exclusively only talk about women's wrestling, Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast. I basically just started it because I love women's wrestling, and I don't think it's talked about as much as it needs to be. And right now, the women are overperforming the guys and outperforming the guys, in my opinion. So I thought that it would be a great idea to, start a podcast and just the only content being about women's wrestling. So if you want to check us out, look up Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast and tune in for some great wrestling content.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is not enough focus on the women's, in terms of the podcasting field for just the women's wrestling, which is great. So yeah, no, guys, I'd really highly recommend it. Check out the Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast for sure. And we've got some women's matches that we'll get to, some that I'm really excited about, one that I'm like kind of about with the SmackDown Women's Championship. But let's start off with the Usos and the Street Profits for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. I mean, do I hate to say this one sounds predictable, but maybe you have a different take on it, Grace. What do you think about this one?
No, I can't differ from you on this one. If you have the Usos, I have the Usos winning this one. I don't see them dropping their belts. I don't think it makes any sense. And if they did, that would be, I feel like, a twist that no one would see coming. But this is a match, I mean, we've seen a lot. I mean, we've seen it multiple times, and they never have a bad match together. So I'm not upset that the match is happening, because it's going to be a great match no matter what when you put these guys in the ring together. But I don't see the Usos losing those titles right now.
I think that the quality of the match is most of what people are going to be looking for here, because we know it's going to be really good with all four of these men who are ultra talented in the ring. And the match quality is probably what's going to save this from being kind of a snooze fest, only because the outcome is all but, I mean, it's about a 99% chance. Like, this one is a pretty safe bet if you actually have money on it that the Usos are going to retain. There's almost no reason at all for the Street Profits to capture the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championships, particularly because also the WWE has done their typical formula of having the champions lose, whether it's in singles competition or in a tag team, like week after week after week, only to retain the championships when they're on the line. And that's what's going to happen here. But yeah, the quality of the match I have no issue with, and I think as fans we need to look at this and go, okay, let's just enjoy the journey of it, because we all know the destination.
I think the WWE kind of has shot themselves in the foot with they have a lot of matches that are so predictable, and not in the way of like, it's like with the Usos, it wouldn't make no sense for them to lose the titles right now, but that's how they've built the story. So when you have big matches like this, and then you make your storyline so predictable to the fact that, like, if it went the opposite way, it would make no sense. It's like you're just watching a match where you definitely know the outcome, but the WWE does it to themselves, you know?
Yeah, they do. A lot of what they do is self-inflicted wounds, and a lot of times you can tell that the creative refuses to change their formulas and how they do things, and even the way sometimes matches are structured. It's always starts out with usually the baby face, getting some offense to get the crowd into it. The heel takes over. There's a couple of hope spots. It's a lot of, you can just feel when a match is coming to its conclusion, and you can almost tell. You know what I mean? Like every match, I don't care who it is. It's just the WWE style, and that unfortunately will never change. But I mean, it's not all bad. But I hear what you're saying. So, all right. Well, let's talk about the United States Championship. This match, I gotta say, isn't as predictable, I think, as the Tag Team Championship. We have Theory versus Bobby Lashley. There's certainly a favorite here, but I don't know, Grace. What do you think about this?
So I would say Theory is gonna retain. And this could go either way, but the reason I have like kind of a prediction, not only for the winner, but for afterwards, I think that Theory's going to retain, and I think there's a possibility that John Cena comes out and gets in his face and, looks like he wants the title, and then they have a thing for SummerSlam and builds to SummerSlam. But that could also happen if Bobby won the title as well. They could still have a feud, and the title wouldn't need to be in it. But I would say Theory retains plus Cena coming out at the end. I also think that would be awesome if it happened.
It would. See, I like that. So first of all, let me just say right off the bat, yeah, I think Theory does retain. I'm not as confident as the tag team title match. There's certainly a chance Bobby wins, but given where they've positioned Theory, and that I truly believe McMahon, not just in story but behind the scenes, is going to get behind Theory, and there's rumors of Cena versus Theory at SummerSlam. There's rumors of Cena and Theory all the way to to WrestleMania next year. That's also been rumored, according to Wrestling Observer. Dave Meltzer, love or hate him, and sometimes he does have good information. That's the rumors as of now, that it could be at WrestleMania that these two face off. But that doesn't mean that SummerSlam can't happen either. It's their quote unquote WrestleMania of the summer. So I don't think that your prediction is impossible. In fact, I'd give it a 50-50 with John Cena. Now, he did get punked out a little bit by Theory on Raw. We saw their interaction. The crowd was into it. I mean, the crowd was like, "Oh, here we go!" Like we've been hearing about this. They come face to face. Cena, ditches him when he tries to take a selfie. That's all that was said, or that's all that was done. And then now we're here in the match, and here's Theory and Bobby Lashley. And before we get to Cena, I think that Lashley and Theory is going to be a really good match. Like, they're both really good workers, different styles. Certainly, we have Bobby Lashley's more of a powerhouse. We have Theory, who's a little bit more athletic and gymnastic in a way. So this match, I'd expect to be a lot of fun. And I ultimately see Theory cheating to win. I mean, I don't think he'll outright beat Bobby Lashley clean. He seems to be a guy that'll take advantage of a situation, an eye poke, a low blow, a title to the face behind the referee's back. It'll be I think, an old school heel victory, pulling of the tights, something along those lines, to get the victory over Bobby, and then gloat about it and take a selfie with Bobby on the canvas, whatever it may be. But as far as John Cena coming out, again, I'd give it 50-50. I don't think John Cena is going to come out if it's the second match on the show, or if it's, in the first half of the show. Cena appearing here should be a big deal, and it would be a weird placement for Theory and Lashley if it is the second match. Now, this is just the way I'm looking at the lineup now. But if the later in the show that this match happens, I think the higher likelihood of John Cena appearing.
See, the only reason I even think John Cena is going to come out is purely based off of the promo he gave on last Monday Night Raw. I feel like it was such a red herring for him when he was talking about having a match or coming back in the ring, and he was saying how, there's not going to be one, and I will be back in, but I don't know when. So I feel like it made everyone think that, oh, well, we thought he was going to, be in the ring soon, but now that he's, saying it now, maybe he's not. So I feel like that's a red herring. So if he shows up sooner than everyone thinks, I think that was like the plan for him to, say that he's, it might be a long time, but then he ends up now this weekend, like the same week. So I feel like it was a red herring, but that's the only reason I'm saying that he would come out.
That's sneaky. Yeah, because the way he was speaking, you would just by his tone, think, like you said, it'll probably be Survivor Series, maybe towards the Rumble, WrestleMania. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, because even I was duped by that, thinking, he doesn't sound like he's going to be here like next week. It sounds like it's going to be several months. So yeah, I think that's a nice subtle way to fool the fans into thinking that it's going to be a while, when in fact it's like a week away that I'm going to come back. No, I like that. And certainly, again, SummerSlam's their second biggest pay-per-view of the year. Why wouldn't you want Theory and John Cena? And, having John Cena with the United States Championship in that matchup with Theory, there's a lot of history with John Cena in the United States Championship. He's the one that resurrected it back to life when he was doing the open challenges a number of years ago. I mean, that was actually a lot of fun. I remember that, and that was a formula that WWE took and really just kind of duplicated it, not just for the U.S. title, but other titles as well for babyface champions. So yeah, this could be a lot of fun. And I'm not. You're talking me into it. I'm still going to stick by no. I'm going to say no Cena, but I'd still say 50-50. I think both of us agree, though, that Theory is retaining.
See, I also, the reason I think Theory's going to retain, but I agree with you. This match could go either way. And the reason it could go the other way, too, is because maybe they don't want Cena winning the U.S. Championship. Maybe they want him winning the IC title, because then he would become a Grand Slam champion. That's one of his last accolades that he needs to get. And then I can see WWE wanting him to be that top guy in the company, to have the most championships, to beat Ric Flair, because they want John Cena to be the guy in WWE. They want people to look up John Cena and see him being have the most championships. So I know that WWE wants to make him. He just needs one more. Mm-hmm. So that's why, on the other hand, I could see him maybe also not coming out, because they want to maybe have him go against Gunther and then go for the IC title so he can become a Grand Slam champion. So it could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that John Cena is a guy that is not. He sounds like. I mean, he said multiple matches. Do I think it's going to be an Intercontinental Championship run? I mean, if he's one championship away from being a Grand Slam champion, I'm sure they would like to have that run with him. But also the fact that to get his 17th World Championship, whatever match that may be, it probably should happen at WrestleMania, given that at this point, I don't think they have any love lost for Ric Flair with all the bad PR he got earlier this year with the plane ride from hell and the allegations that seem to be pretty believable with what Ric Flair did on the plane, not good. So they distance himself and, as they should. So I don't think that they have any love lost for Ric Flair right now, and John Cena is their guy. And they spent the entire Monday Night Raw just drooling over him with the video packages and people standing and clapping, and which I wasn't a fan of. If anybody listened to my Raw review, I did not like that whole everybody stand at a concession line and let's all clap, and heels and baby faces. No, let's not worry about it, guys. Everything that just happened, we're just going to stand in here and applaud John Cena. I there's things that you can do. That was not a moment for that. But anyway, so yeah, we're talking about John Cena here and his Theory and Bobby Lashley. But I do think Theory retains, but you're right. Bobby Lashley has an opportunity here to capture it, and I think that they have placed Bobby Lashley in a good position to be believable to do that. So, all right, I want to move on to the SmackDown Women's Championship, and I'm going to take this one first, and maybe you can put a more positive spin on it than I can, because you are the women's wrestling podcast aficionado here. So I'm looking at this and saying, okay, Natalya is a veteran. She is the veterans, the women's veteran in the locker room. I understand that. She's the locker room leader, all that. And Ronda Rousey, I'm not a huge fan of Ronda Rousey. That's no secret. And she's just not my cup of tea. I think she exposes the business in a way that makes herself higher than the business, or at least she tries to elevate herself. She can't even mention the SmackDown Women's Championship. For some reason, she's allergic to putting those three words together. She just wants to say SmackDown Championship. Like, I think that's disrespectful. I understand the argument for why put women in there. That's a whole another thing. But I think there's been moments in her career that she has felt like she's above the business, and I'm not a fan of that. But she's excellent in the ring. For what she's done in MMA, to translate that to WWE, I think it's certainly been commendable, and she's an ultra athlete. I've respect for her on a professional level. I just not a fan of her character. I mean, I don't want to get into it specifically, but Natalya here and Ronda Rousey, it'll be fun. They've built this around the submission holds that they have, with the sharpshooter being apparently, according to Natalya, more devastating than the armbar, where she said she almost got Ronda to tap out the previous week. And Ronda Rousey obviously has been very successful with her armbar. And so the story's okay, but I think that the outcome here is kind of like the tag team title match. Like, there's just no way they're going to have Natalya win here. It's almost like she is the Tamina of SmackDown, where they bring her out of the crypt every so often just to have a kind of a bigger match, and then they just push her back down into the basement for a while, and we don't hear from her. And she's just posting Instagram photos with her cats or whatever she does. I mean, so it's just, I don't think they're going to do anything here. The match quality, well, I think it'll be fine, but there's just no way that Natalya wins this. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Natalya winning. I think Ronda will retain first and foremost. But as for the whole, okay, I get so tongue-tied over this because I don't have words to explain like how disappointing anything with Ronda Rousey is that they ever come up with, because Doesn't this story sound a little bit familiar, Matt?
I mean, I've seen thousands of storylines. I mean, it probably does. There's some part of my brain that it probably does. Why? What is it? What are you relating it to?
If we rewind to Ronda's last feud that she had for the title was with Charlotte, right? And the main thing of their story was submissions.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna make you tap out. I'm gonna make you tap out. So like, it's the same exact thing. They haven't even come up with a new story at all. It is the same exact story, which shows you a lot what creative's thinking about. But yeah, no, I respect Natalya a lot. I mean, I respect Natalya a lot, and she's trained a lot of the women on the roster for years, because she's that good. She's always been that good. And she's a vet and will always be someone you can respect in the ring. And not to mention, she's come to the end of her career with, I thought at least, with main event title matches and stuff like that. So when she was announced for this, I was very surprised, and I think they could have easily put someone else in that position. But you know, this match, it's not going to be bad, but Ronda's going to retain, and then Natalya's going to go back to whatever she was doing before, tagging with Shayna in a tag division that doesn't exist, and then they're never going to push anyone else on the SmackDown roster like they normally do. I mean, they haven't pushed anyone since Raquel was the last person we saw that they actually seemed like they wanted to push. And then they threw Natalya into this match, which they went in so many different directions, and I don't think they ended up on the right one. But the SmackDown roster, I mean, I talk about it on my podcast all the time. It's weak. It's really weak. And it's not the women's fault. It's creative's fault. They don't put any effort into any storylines on that roster. And I mean, you can compare the SmackDown roster to the Raw roster. It doesn't even come close. And I mean, that has a lot to do with, I mean, there's 7 women on the SmackDown roster. So it's not Natalya's fault, but creative needs to get a little creative and like actually give the SmackDown title some good matches, because this is not it.
Yeah. No, it's funny that you say that creative needs to be creative. It's like they're not living up to what their name is. Yeah, it's tough. Plus, I mean, but in their defense, they don't have Charlotte. They don't have Bayley yet. I think Bayley actually is going to be, if I was going to guess, facing Ronda at SummerSlam. That sounds like a SummerSlam match to me. I mean, Bayley's even, I think, possible to attack Ronda at the end of this match. I imagine they're going to keep her heel and try to keep Ronda babyface, which I would love to see that happen, because I think the crowd is starting to turn on Ronda a bit. They're very lukewarm about it with Ronda as champion, kind of with Bianca Belair. We'll get to that match next too. Like, they're not booing either woman, but it feels like they are not getting the reaction that they want them to have at this level. And there's so many reasons for that. I mean, creative is to blame on it. Ronda Rousey needing to learn how to cut a damn promo, although this week was probably her best. Her promo ability is not great. She needs to learn how to time it when the mic or when their music goes off. Don't whisper into the microphone. Like, speak with some bass in your voice. I mean, she's got a great look, but just her promo ability is very hit and miss. A lot of times I feel like she's literally reading off a teleprompter. I mean, like it feels like that a lot of times. I mean, it's not easy to do. I'm not saying it's easy, but when you look at the importance of learning how to cut a good promo, Ronda's just not there yet. But that said, look, this match, circling back, I think is going to be fine. I think it's going to be some spots where the Natalya does put her in the sharpshooter, and Ronda's crying out in pain, and she's crawling to the ropes. She pulls her back to the middle of the ring, and you're like, oh my God, she can win it. That'll probably be Natalya's hope spot. Like, that's going to be the spot that's coming where we're all supposed to believe that Natalya could win. She's not going to. Ronda will make her tap. And that's it. Natalya will go back to doing whatever she was doing. But, I mean, again, WWE and SmackDown doesn't have 2 of their biggest stars that were on SmackDown in Charlotte and Bayley right now. So that is a bit of a problem, but overall, yeah, the women's division as a whole, especially on SmackDown, has been fairly weak, even with Ronda Rousey at the top of it right now. And as I look at this whole card, it's funny. There was not one just grudge match. Every single match on this card is either a championship match or some for the briefcase. So that's interesting that it's, and the reason I say that is for the women's division as a whole, you probably have heard this before too. They almost never have just a grudge match, like just a personal feud. They always have to have the women chasing the women's championship, or if there's a match on the pay-per-view, it's always for the women's championship. They can't just build a storyline out of pure character development to make people care about the women's division, care about two individuals and who wins, who loses, and they don't have any faith or the creative ability to think that people will care if there's not a championship involved.
Yeah. I do. Oh, I actually have a question for you. After Natalya loses, which seems to be inevitable, where do you think they go with Ronda after this? And
Bayley.
Really?
Yeah. I think Bayley, I mean, Bayley has been, I've followed her a little bit on Instagram, and every time there's an event, especially from WrestleMania on now, she's been putting things on her Instagram that she knows she's screwing with fans, and we're all, she's been very good at it. Putting up something a month or two ago about, TikTok, my time's almost here, like I'm coming back. Didn't say that verbatim, but she put up something that alluded to that. She put up something recently of her holding the Money in the Bank briefcase laying on presumably a hotel bed, I think. And she was just laying there holding the briefcase. And so she knows what she's doing, and I'd imagine that she's got to be close. I mean, I feel like it's been almost a year since she's been out from her injuries. So I think it's Ronda Rousey and Bayley. I can't think of something bigger for SummerSlam than that. What are they going to do? Go back to Ronda Rousey and Charlotte again that no one wants to see? So that's it. I can't think of another option.
That would be great if Bayley returned and they did a feud with Ronda and Bayley. I 100% agree. I don't have the faith in them to plan that, and I don't know the timeline of Bayley's injury and all of that. But I could see them going back to Raquel. And they've already done it, kind of. So either going back to her or starting a feud with Shayna, because that is the one Ronda Rousey feud that I would actually be interested in. I don't like Ronda Rousey. I'm with you on that. I think I will go to my grave saying that the only thing Ronda has is not in-ring skill. She's not bad, but she's not great. She has no mic skill. The only thing Ronda Rousey has is her presence and her name. That is the only thing she has. That's the only reason she's anything in the WWE. But a match that I would like to see with Ronda in it is Ronda and Shayna, because I think that has the potential, plus the storyline, to be very good, because they could build a really good story off of those two, just from their backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. But, I mean, they had a bit of a face-off a few weeks ago in some kind of multi-woman match. They never actually had put hands on each other, but there was a moment there where you were wondering if they were going to, and the crowd reacted to it, because we haven't seen it. I mean, the question, though, is, I would imagine that we'd have Bianca, or rather Ronda Rousey, as the baby face and Shayna as the heel, but with people starting to kind of wear thin on Ronda Rousey, you do wonder, as her opponents continue to progress, are people going to continue to stick with Ronda? It's people. I think that if WWE at some point in Ronda's contract, whether it's this time, next time, I don't know how long it is, not turn her heel, it's a big missed opportunity. Like, Ronda Rousey as a heel, I would get on board for, because there's so much you could pull from. And I think naturally she has an arrogance about her that she has to try to suppress as a babyface. And it bleeds through, and it's really hard to hide who you truly are. And I think Ronda would just thrive in that, talking about the fans and how you guys don't understand who the hell I am. I came here. I didn't have to come here. It's right there. And for her to have to go out, it doesn't feel natural a lot of times times with Rousey. She could be a lot looser on the microphone. It would be, I think, a much more fun ride with Ronda as a heel champion who's got this entitlement about her coming from MMA, and she's still calling herself the baddest woman on the planet, yet hasn't. When's the last time she, actually proved that? It's been how many years? So I'm tired of her calling herself that, ripping off Roddy Piper because you weren't creative enough to come up with something original. I don't want to, get on that rant, but I guess I already am. So anyway, Ronda Rousey is just, I want to see her heel, and then I think it'll be a lot more fun. So, all right.
Agreed.
Yeah, let's move on. Another women's championship match here, Bianca Belair and Carmella. I'll take a breath and ask you what you think about this.
I have Bianca retaining. The quality of the match, I don't know. Like, I want it to be good, and Carmella's not bad in the ring by any means, but Carmella I think she's great at what she does with her character. I mean, she's annoying and she does it very well. But I think her in-ring skill is covered up by a lot of her squealing. And I know that sounds like a joke and like a really funny thing, but I'm being completely serious. Like, I feel like you could actually see a lot of her moveset and her skill in the ring if she wasn't squealing as much. Because sometimes when I'm watching, it's kind of hard to focus on what she's doing because of how much she's like squealing. So if she does that in the match, I feel like it'll be okay. And Bianca will do great. I mean, she's always great in the ring. But I think like the overall quality is going to be okay. Like, I don't expect it to be like some A+ match. But I do like that Carmella is in this match because only because I wanted Ripley and Bianca at a bigger and better pay-per-view. And then Money in the Bank, I think they could save that for, SummerSlam, WrestleMania. I mean, it could be a WrestleMania match. So I am glad that Carmella kind of stepped in for a little like detour for Bianca to do. But yeah, I have Bianca retaining, and I think it'll be an okay match. Like, I don't think anything special will come from it.
Yeah, my bar's low here too, simply limited by the fact of Carmella's ability in the ring. I've said this, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Carmella. As a person, I'm sure she's really nice, whatever. She's married to Corey Graves. But from a professional standpoint, I look at her and I feel like she's a Divas era leftover. She's very focused on her looks, and that's like her whole gimmick, which is like as shallow as it gets. Like that's as paper thin as it gets as a character, is that I'm the most beautiful woman in WWE. It's like that's it. That's all. That's it. I mean, and inside the ring, she feels like kind of a little bit high, a tick higher of a more skilled Bella Twin. Like she's a third Bella Twin, except blonde. And I don't think she's super skilled in the ring. I think Bianca's, extraordinary in the ring. She's going to be capped by what Carmella can do. And so I'm with you. I think if I'm going to do out of 10 ahead of time, it's probably going to be a 5 out of 10, maybe 6. Out of 10 in terms of quality of the matchup. Again, Bianca retains, another super predictable outcome, but that's the right outcome. Again, just because it's predictable doesn't necessarily mean it's bad and it's the wrong thing to do. I'm all for predictability if it's the right thing. But in this case, I mean, the match quality, I'm not, like you said, I don't know if you put Carmella and Bianca together versus Ronda and Natalya, what one's going to be more of in terms of just wrestling only, what one's going to be more entertaining. I would imagine Ronda and Natalya, but it's kind of a toss-up in a way. I mean, I'd like to see Bianca and Ronda, face off against one another. That would be a lot of fun. Maybe that'll happen at some point. Although, I've said this before. I don't know if anyone's taken me up on it. With Ronda Rousey, I'm not going back to the match itself, but just to say that Ronda Rousey, maybe we should play a drinking game where every time she adjusts her tights, we'll take a drink, right? Because and you'll be drunk within 5 minutes because I don't know what it is. Like, I understand she wears the athletic gear, right? And you should, but I don't know. Maybe she purposely has that and it's like a nervous tick or something, or they're just riding up her backside. I don't know, but it's super distracting every time she, like, if she did it once or twice in a match, it's like, okay, she's just adjusting her gear. But it's seriously like every 10 to 15 seconds, she's like, adjusting this and that. And it's like, well, then get gear that fits. You don't need to make, I don't know. So now that I've made you think about it, now that's all you'll see. But I don't know. Did you notice this? Like, where Ronda just like constantly fussing with her gear?
I know what you're talking about. I actually think it might be like an involuntary reaction, and I'm being completely serious right now. I think it's an involuntary reaction because in the MMA, in the UFC fights that she has done, and any UFC fights actually, with the women who wear the shorts, they do that. So I think it is an involuntary reaction. Like, she's so used to doing it because they do it in the ring. So I hear you, but I think it's more of just like an involuntary reaction,
I don't even think she's self-aware. She's just, maybe it is. It's just kind of like a comfort thing. She's just wears this gear, and it's just, I don't know. It's just muscle, I don't know, muscle memory. I don't know.
I used to play basketball, and every time I go past a trash can, I do a little fadeaway, so it might be like that.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, except it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable if you're watching in the audience to see somebody like pulling at their crotch every 5 minutes. I mean, like, seriously, like it got to the point. I remember the last time I watched her on the, I think it was WrestleMania Backlash, and I'm like, okay, like, she has to be doing this as some kind of like inside joke. Like, is there really a drinking game behind this or something? Because it was just unbelievable. And, I don't know. So now I've made you think about it, guys. I'm sorry, you can't unhear this, and now you'll be watching for her pulling at her tights. So, all right. Well, Bianca, I think we both agree, is going to retain. The match quality doesn't really, shock us here. I think it's just going to kind of be Bianca retains, and that's it. The one thing I'll say about this, though, with Bianca, she's kind of in the same boat as Ronda, where the crowd, I think, is not souring, but just they're not at the level. I'd say, if they want them to be a 10, the crowd's like a 6 or a 5 of where they want them to be. Bianca has, maybe are you sensing this too with the crowd, that Bianca's just not getting that like overwhelming response she was last year? She's kind of like, I don't know, mildly supported.
Yeah, no, you can definitely hear the crowd has changed a little bit, and not in like a bad way. They're just, a little quieter now. But I think everyone is kind of thinking the same thing. Like, they're waiting for change, and they want to see her character change. I want to see her character change. I know you've said you would like to see her character change. And I think she would, do really well with being a heel. And I think everyone is kind of expecting that at this point. And they're seeing the same old. And it's kind of getting, it's just getting very repetitive. So, yeah, I think the crowd has definitely gotten a little bit quieter and quieter over the past month.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They're not booing. They're just not as excited to see her. They're just like, it's not that they're booing yet, although they are on the road to booing her. If they continue on this path, like, they're going to eventually actually turn and actively boo, instead of just, apathetically like, oh, yay, hey, Bianca's here, isn't that cool? And people are like, And eventually that will turn. So, yeah, I think they either need to double down and actually give her a microphone, and stop having her sit at ringside for every match and not, put a commentary headset on. I mean, she's been at ringside. It's like her second home lately, and just sitting there and not speaking. So, anyway, all right, let's move on to the third women's match, which, by the way, guys, I just realized this, 3 women's matches and 3 men's matches that are on the show. I can't remember the last time it was that even, so that's cool. We have the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Lacey Evans, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Asuka, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch. Yeah, I almost took this, but I have my pick. But you go first, Grace.
All right. This is a difficult one because I'm a huge Becky Lynch fan. But as in, recent months, I've become like, I've become a fan of Liv Morgan. I think that she has excelled in the ring. After her whole feud with Becky Lynch, I think it really shot her into like a different atmosphere. And I mean, she's not quite there yet on the mic. She's still a little stiff on the mic. She's better than she was but I want to see her get the briefcase. I think it'd be a really good moment, and I think that she deserves it after, I mean, her performance as of late. But I can also see Becky Lynch winning it. So it's hard for me. Like, I want Becky to win it, but I also want Liv to win it. So to throw it back to you, what is your prediction on this?
This is, there's, as you were talking, I thought about 3 scenarios, and I had a very confident answer, and now you're screwing me up. Okay, so my initial reaction before you gave yours was I think Becky Lynch is going to win. It's the most uninteresting, predictable answer, but there's good reason to believe that Becky could win, because Becky Lynch winning, it's, it gets her kind of back into the title picture, which she just came out of, and I think people got a little tired of her holding the belt, much like they did with Charlotte. Like, what's your identity without the belt? Do you know who you are? And I think Becky had the same kind of problem. But I think here's the and I'm going to stick by my guns, even if it's not going to work out here. But here's the argument for Becky Lynch keeping it and winning the match. I think she wins, and then what you'll see is Becky Lynch not cash in for a while until we get towards WrestleMania season, where then she goes and cashes in on Ronda Rousey, and then you can have Ronda versus Becky. We finally get the one-on-one that we've all been so desperately deserving of. And now I know Becky Lynch is a heel. I understand that. And I think it was more fun with Becky as a babyface, with Ronda as the kind of a heel. I mean, by de facto. But even if it's not, I think that one-on-one with Ronda and Becky didn't happen, and it should happen. Now, you could say, well, Becky could win the Rumble. And you're right, she could win the Rumble. But with Becky holding that briefcase, it creates, I think, more interest than anyone else. That when you look at star power anyway, she's easily the biggest star in this matchup. Now, so I'm sticking with Becky Lynch. The other thing is, okay, Liv Morgan, definitely. They constantly tell us that she has not captured the women's championship, and that's true. Alexa Bliss, you have somebody that I think has been sorely misused from a in-ring perspective, not even used at all in-ring over the last 2 years. I mean, she's been busy sitting on swings and sitting in therapy offices and just not showing up for weeks and months on end. So I think that in-ring Alexa is, better than most people give her credit for, and having her get shot right back into the women's title picture, it's been way too long for Alexa Bliss. There's an argument to be made there. The rest of them, Raquel, too soon. Asuka, I don't think there's a whole lot of push for that. Shotzi, again, a little too soon. So that's my pick, Becky Lynch.
What the hell, Matt?
Sorry. Don't listen to me. I tell this to everybody, and I told this to you last time. Don't do it. Stay by your guns. No. Okay, Stick by your guns.
Okay. I'm not going to agree with you.
Good.
The story you made was
good.
Really
no.
Good.
I am banning you. I will not accept a change. So, because I have burned too many people. So go. Yeah.
Okay, but to say something else that could happen, not because that story with Becky Lynch cashing in and waiting for Ronda, holy crap, I would love to see that, because the match I want to see the most is Ronda versus Becky at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. I want to see that. That's what I'm waiting for.
She could win the Rumble, though.
But
so yeah.
Yeah, but what if Becky wins it and does a failed cash in, and then her character just plummets?
I want to see that.
I mean, that would I don't necessarily want to see it, but I think it would be really good for her story right now. Okay, but if I have to pick one, Matt.
Sorry.
I've been struggling with this match. Yeah. I thought I finally had an answer, and then you had to go and say
that's what you did to me. I almost switched my answer to Alexa Bliss, so that because of you. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to say Liv Morgan wins. Okay. I want Becky Lynch to win. I think Liv Morgan will win, and I do want to see her get the briefcase. I'm not gonna lie. I think the fans are so behind Liv, on Twitter and all the social media. Liv has a big fan base right now, and I think WWE sees it. So I'm gonna say Liv climbs up the ladder and grabs that briefcase.
I think the fans will be super behind that, like you said, because fans have seen her for years now be abused and be,
Turned on.
Yeah, like, and how many times was in the Riot Squad was she the one taking the pinfall, looking up at the lights? How many hundreds of times did she lose match? I mean, like, so she's paid her dues. People are ready, I think. Liv Morgan is, I like her on the microphone. I like her the way she speaks. She doesn't speak too quickly. She seems confident in the ring. She's not insane, but she's definitely good to very good. I have no problem with Liv Morgan. She is a veteran, I would say, at this point. I'd say after she's been there 5-6 years, she's got some experience under her belt. So I have no problem with that. Now, does she actually successfully cash in? When does she cash in? Is it on Bianca? And Carmella? I mean, who knows? But yeah, Liv Morgan, there's certainly a case, and I think that the fans would love that.
I just think it'd be a really good moment. Like, I think it would genuinely be like a very good moment. Like, and I think the crowd would actually go crazy if she won it. And it could be like,
it'd be that feel good kind of Daniel Bryan moment, even though there's no championship on the line. It'd be kind of like the underdog that deserves it, that's been here and overlooked for a while. I get it.
Like turned on by her partners time after time.
Oh my God. Yeah. How many times? Yeah, she's got to be the record holder for that. But Becky Lynch, the one thing I'll say about that is you have something in mind there. You have something good there where Becky Lynch, if she loses, I have been advocating for this, of seeing her spiral down into the abyss of just like, how far can we push Becky's character? Not to actually bury her, but her character's depression. Like, what's the end game? Like, I want to see her lose just to see the character evolution. Like, does she come out like with no music one day and just like kind of have mascara running down her face? Looks like she hasn't showered, like starts to become depressed, like almost like a, I don't know.
Like
just,
when she was fighting Lita?
Yeah, like exactly. Just kind of just doesn't defeated, but there's an end game. Like, and what is that end game? So maybe they'll explore that. Maybe they won't. But if you're right, if she cashes in and fails, then they're clearly on that road and they have an idea of where they want her to go. But you're right. I mean, Liv Morgan is the feel-good choice, no doubt. So, all right, it's time for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I'll ask you, do you want to take this first, or do you want me to answer and give you my prediction? Because this is also got a little bit of a tough choice here.
So you don't come up with some crazy story for me to change my mind?
See, go ahead, yeah, go. And you're not allowed to change it after I tell you mine.
Okay, well, we'll see. Okay, right off the bat, I'm not even talking about anyone else. It's Seth freaking Rollins. No one else. Seth Rollins.
Yep. No, I actually concur with that. And now the runner-up is Drew McIntyre. And the reason I say that is because he, as we all know, he's going to be main eventing the Clash at the Castle. I think it's in September. With Roman Reigns. And now, just because he doesn't win this doesn't mean he still can't find a way to get to Roman in a tournament, in a number one contenders match, just by berating Adam Pearce for this match, whatever, that he's been. Roman's ducking him. There's a way to get to Drew and Roman if he doesn't win this match. But yeah, Seth with this is, to me, this is Seth Rollins' match to win. And if he doesn't win, I genuinely think people in the audience, even though he's billed as a heel, are going to be pissed, because everyone else in this matchup outside of Drew doesn't make sense, honestly. I mean, you have Madcap Moss. I mean, no chance. Riddle, I think he's number 3 as a choice. He has it's alive. It's on life support that he has a chance, but it's there. Sami Zayn, sorry, none. Omos, sorry. I mean, there's just he'll be the big guy in the match. That
he's the first person gets thrown out.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way. I mean, they're not going to make him look like a fool. They'll book him strong, but he has no chance of grabbing that briefcase. It's just not. It's too soon. I think he has a world championship run maybe in 2023 or 2024. Not right now. Sheamus, been there, done that. He's kind of a snooze fest. I'm sorry. Sheamus is boring to me. I understand he's a tough guy. He's a veteran. He has modified his character over the years. His character just doesn't excite me. It's just there. He's an asset to the company, but he's not exciting to me. Drew McIntyre has a date with Destiny with Roman Reigns. And Seth Rollins is by far the the favorite to win this, and he should win this because it's going to be fun to think about. Wait a minute, Seth Rollins, who does he cash in on? Is he going to cash in on Roman after the last man standing at SummerSlam? What does he do? Does he wait until after WrestleMania again? And we're eventually going to get to Rollins and Reigns, and I actually think Rollins should be the one to end the streak for Roman. I actually think.
Oh my gosh!
I want.
So good.
That's what I don't. At this point, I've lost all hope that it's going to be some upstart young NXT guy that you could springboard his career off of. That'd be a great ideal scenario. Right now, there's nobody on the roster that fits that bill. Seth Rollins hasn't held a championship in a long time. There's a lot of history between Roman and Seth. They didn't follow up after last year's Survivor Series, where he beat the holy hell out of Seth, left him laying, and everyone just accepts it, and there was no follow-up to that. And so, yes, Seth should be the one to defeat Roman Reigns with that championship, cashing in on him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Another thing about this match, though, which is slightly terrifying because I don't want this to happen, but I could see them doing something like this, is if Sammy won, and then they just held the briefcase hostage, and Paul Heyman was controlling him and stuff, and I really can see them doing something like that, and I really hope it doesn't.
Don't put it out in the universe. Don't. No,
I know it's like the whole Shane McMahon thing when we thought he was gonna end up.
That's right.
The Rumble.
Yeah, because it's sad that we have to think like this, but it's possible. I could see you're right, where he wins it, and then Sammy says he promises he's not going to cash it in on Roman, and then Paul Heyman, like you said, he just kind of locks it away. Yeah. Oh no.
No, I don't. I'm sorry I even said it. I probably shouldn't have even put it out into the universe. But So what do you think of the title? Do you like the titles being combined?
I would have if they executed it the way that they should have, meaning that, okay, they unified it, even though there's a brand split. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, there is no brand split anymore. It's quietly gone away. But if they executed it where, okay, they unify it, and then Roman actually appears on Raw and SmackDown more regularly, which was supposed to be the plan, and yet that the exact opposite is happening. I think I would have liked it if they actually kept the championship in the eyes of fans more, instead of just having Roman take it and go hibernate wherever he is, and good, props to him. He's getting paid millions of dollars with less dates, less wear and tear on his body. Good for him. I'd do the same thing. But when you're looking at this from a fan's perspective, you're like, all right, well, they unified the belts. He barely defends it. He's not on SmackDown. He's on 1 out of every 4 SmackDowns. He doesn't do house shows. And nobody is talking about challenging for the championship because there are no championships other than the U.S. and Intercontinental for the men's side anyway. So, yeah, I don't hate the idea. I just don't like the execution and the results after a few months now of okay, well, they took the belts and essentially just buried them temporarily. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on that. But I think I want to see him split now. I don't want. It was a fun idea at first, and Roman holding on the belts, but like you said, it's just that he's gone, and you don't see the belts. You don't even see them. And I honestly don't think Raw is suffocating without a belt that much. I mean, they need a belt, but I think they're doing pretty well on their own. But I want to see them split at some point, and it makes me wonder, with this whole Money in the Bank match happening in the contracts, what do the contracts say? Inside the briefcase? What if they say for one belt? And, they go on the story and oh, we haven't updated them, and it looks like it's actually for one belt, and, you can actually only challenge for one belt. So what if Rollins gets the briefcase and he opens it and sees that it's for the Universal or the WWE Championship? Because I could see Rollins having a championship, and then I want to see Drew with a championship too at some point. So if they split it, Rollins can have the belt for whenever he wants it, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, whatever, and then you can still have Drew win the other one at the Clash of the Castle.
I have, in concept, I have no problem with that, taking the belts and putting them back on each brand, so each brand has a top belt to compete for. But again, when they tell us at WrestleMania, hey, this is unifying, that means to bring together, even though I understand symbolically they're two separate belts, but they told us that the championship, not the physical title belts, but the championship is now unified. That means it's one. So you're right. I could see them doing that, though, where like people aren't thinking like this and they're just saying, oh, well, he has those two belts, so he technically, the Money in the Bank, no one read the contract. He thought it was for both. It's only for one. It's like, well, wait a minute. WrestleMania unified them. So
yeah, I mean, you could also do it in the way of like it was Paul Heyman's and Roman Reigns' idea, so he doesn't like lose the Universal. Like he's always had the Universal. So what if it was their idea? So it's like he loses one, but he still technically has the other one, so he's still the champion of that one, so he doesn't lose the streak. So what if they came up with the idea of like, okay, well, if I lose that belt, fine, but I still have this belt where I still have my streak on it, you know?
yeah, that I could see them doing that. I mean, they have so many large holes in storylines now. Anyway, it's not that far of a reach to say that they would do something like that. And you know, I would actually be okay with letting that slide simply for the benefit of getting a top championship back on Raw and Seth as a champion. And then you can have Roman hold that Universal Championship until Drew at Clash at the Castle. But I just have no faith. And I really think, sadly, that they're going to go with Rock and Roman for the Universal Championship or unified, whatever, at WrestleMania. And I don't want the belt involved at all. I mean, would you want the belt involved with Rock and Roman at WrestleMania?
I mean, no, because then you would know the outcome. Like, the Rock's not going to win the belt. At least you don't think so. Like, because he's so busy, he's not going to come back to WWE for a run. So it would make it obvious. It'd make it very predictable. And I think that's a match that you don't want to be predictable at all, because that match, when it does happen, will be fantastic, and you don't want any inclination of what is going to happen in the slightest. So no, I don't want the belt in it, just because I don't want it to be predictable like they do with a lot of their matches. So yeah, no belt in that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just trying to see if there's an argument to be made that I'm not thinking of, that it's like, yeah, it'd actually be better with the belt. I can't think of one other than the marketing. Like Vince would love to say, the very superficially, oh, it's for the championship. That makes it bigger. And when you take 5 seconds, you're like, well, no, actually, wait a minute. No, Rock is a Hollywood star. He's here for one match only. Why would I want the belt involved, which would just totally exploit the outcome of the match, like you said? And it would also mean that Roman's champion for another, 6 months, whatever the hell it is. And I think people are ready to move on. I was one of the last holdouts of like, no, it's kind of going good. I'm ready. Like I'm like, okay, this has been a fun run. It's been now almost exactly 2 years at WrestleMania or SummerSlam 2020 when he came back during the pandemic era and beat, I think it was Braun Strowman in the triple threat, or he made it a triple threat or something, and speared him and won the belt. So to me, I think that you have a fan base that's getting restless. They're ready. It's like, okay, can we give somebody the victory like Seth Rollins so we can get back to kind of regular scheduled programming here, because everything is being withheld with Roman Reigns. Everything. And it's just, for a guy that's not there much anymore anyway, it's a burden. It's a burden on fans, and I'm sure that the guys in the back are like, hey, like he's not here a lot. Can we compete for a championship? So I don't know. But anyway, I think we both agree Seth Rollins wins this match. If you had to pick a second, if you were like, okay, if Seth doesn't win, who would be your second?
I don't want to go to my Sami Zayn prediction. I want to.
That's your second one?
No, it's not my second. I don't want. Okay. I don't want it to be my second. I feel like it is though. But hold on. Okay, hold on. I think it'll be Seth and Riddle. I think it'd be Seth and Riddle climbing up the ladders. Maybe even Drew, but I think it'll be Seth and Riddle just because they've also had a little thing going on, the past couple of weeks. I mean, they've had a couple run-ins, but yeah, I think climbing up the ladders to the last two will be same. Not same. Geez, see, even my subconscious wants to say same.
You're suppressing. You're suppressing your urge. Yeah.
But actually, one thing I want to happen in this match, I will say, I need all of them: Sheamus, Madcap, Sammy, Seth, Riddle, and Drew. Right when the match begins, gang up on Omos, throw him out of the ring, attack him for a good 5 minutes, and just leave him on the floor, and then they continue the match.
Mm-hmm.
I need it to happen.
I think that's going to happen at some point anyway, because Omos in a ring for a long period of time, he's not ready for that, and I think it would expose his weaknesses. So something exactly like that probably will happen. Well, he'll be like taking a nap at ringside after somebody attacks him, and he'll just be laying there. Maybe they'll have like a pillow underneath the ring. He can kind of hang out, and then when it's time, he'll come back into the ring, and people are like, oh my God, Omos is back up. My God, what a the Nigerian giant. And he'll have a spot where he'll have his fingertips on the briefcase, and you think he might have a chance, but it's not going to happen. I mean, my second is Drew McIntyre. Again, an uninteresting pick, but if Seth doesn't win it, I think Drew is probably in second place to win this, so he can say to Roman, you can't duck me any longer. I am going to cash this in on you. You just don't know when. I think that Drew has a case to be made here. I mean, they've been on the same show for how long, and they have, for the most part, not the entire time, but for the most part, avoided one another. And I think that it'd be a fun thing to do, to hang that over the head of Roman Reigns and have him stressed out, every week or every 3 weeks when he's there, or have Paul Heyman comment on it. So I think Drew is a strong second, with Seth Rollins still number one for me. So
yeah, I would say Drew's it would be those three. It'd be Seth, Riddle, and then Drew. But I'm gonna stick with Seth and Riddle for the last.
Even though Riddle doesn't make sense, like no one's talking about this, where Riddle just lost in a match where the stipulation against Roman was, if you lose, you can never compete in a championship match as long as Roman Reigns is champion against for his belts. So
yeah.
How does that work? I mean,
I feel like they just threw that out there, and then we're like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we shouldn't have said that, because
I'm like,
be in the Money in the Bank match.
Yeah, they did. See, that's that's not thought through, and it's not thinking ahead. It's thinking in the moment. And I think they're hoping, fans will forget that. I mean, let's not mention it, guys. Didn't happen. Because they also knew that Riddle wasn't going to win it, so they didn't really care. So yeah, but I just thought about that. I'm like, and they mentioned it like the very next week, and Riddle's like, I'm gonna get my vengeance and win the Money in the Bank. I'm like, but you just lost a match that you can't compete. So I don't know. It's one of those. They won't
explain it.
No, they won't explain it. They won't bring it up. It'll just never. It didn't happen. And so okay, we've gone through the whole card. So to kind of wrap things up, do you think there'll be any big surprise returns, or maybe things we're not thinking about that somebody can make an appearance, anything like that?
I mean, there's John Cena. Like you said, Bailey. Did you say Bailey? You think Bailey's gonna return?
I think there's I think I'd give it a small chance, but I think more likely she'll return on the next Friday Night SmackDown as the next contender for Rousey. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say, there's a small chance John Cena shows up, but other than that, I can't really think of anyone that, would be a surprise return. Do you have anyone else?
Yeah, I think John Cena's a small chance. I think Bailey's small chance. I also think there's a small chance of Roman Reigns himself appearing to interfere, in the tag title match. Maybe. Yeah. I think that it's, again, small. Would he interfere in the ladder match, Money in the Bank ladder match? Maybe he tries to pick somebody he doesn't want to face and screw them out of the opportunity. I mean, there's no rules in that match, so he could just outright interfere with not worrying about being DQ'd or anything. So it's possible. I think Roman Reigns probably takes this entire event off. I don't think he's going to appear, but if you're going to put some people out there, I think, like you said, Bailey, John Cena, and Roman Reigns have all small chances of appearing.
Don't you think it's funny that we're talking about Roman showing up at a pay-per-view and he's the champion?
That's how low and how far
Roman Reigns is going to show up.
That's how low the bar is, guys, for how often we think our champion's going to appear and defend his belt. He's defended the belt once, I believe, since he won it at WrestleMania. Like 2 months ago. So that's how long. Yeah, the bar is very low. it's yeah. I don't know. I'm ready. So, all right. Well, I think that wraps things up. Did you have anything else that I'm not thinking about? Questions or comments on the event?
No, not that I know of. I do have. I don't know if you heard this before. It's not really about the event, but it's a little bit about women's wrestling. A big thing in women's wrestling. If you want to know about
go ahead.
that. So Sasha Banks and Naomi. I heard that. I don't know if you heard this, but it's reports are saying that Sasha specifically was released like June 10th, but now higher ups are trying to smooth things over. So I guess higher ups meaning Stephanie, now that she's in the CEO position. So I don't think hope is lost yet for Sasha being off of WWE. I think that if they are trying to smooth things over, there's a chance that she could be back on TV, possibly.
Yeah, that's another reason why I think SmackDown has taken a big hit. I mean, Charlotte, Sasha, and Bayley all out. Yeah, I mean, I did not hear that. It's also interesting too. Like, I mean, so many outlets had reported, oh, she's released, but WWE never made a statement. I don't think, right? Like, they never publicly
she's still on the
said.
active roster too.
Yeah, they never put out the future endeavored statement that they put out for everybody. So that was the one thing I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe they just don't want to say it, but she really is. I mean, I have no problem with that. You know, I think that whatever the issues may be, and they seem to be deep and they seem to be long lasting. They seem to have something that has been going on for quite some time. And multi-layered, probably a feeling of disrespect, the way they've creatively used her, that kind of thing. And to be fair, though, Sasha's also been randomly out throughout her career for like months at a time with no explanation. She's had the most bizarre run over the last several years. It's fascinating, but I have no problem with that. Like, means if Sasha comes back and they make amends and all is well, then cool. I mean, then that's no problem. They're able to bring back a star that probably was maybe AEW bound, or who knows, maybe whatever she wants to do. She's certainly got enough money, I'm sure, in the bank. No pun intended. But she definitely is somebody that I think if she came back, the crowd would be like, what? Like, people would, the pop would be huge because of everything everyone knows.
Yeah,
so
they need to try really hard because she has a lot of star power and talent in WWE in general. So I don't know what they're doing right now, but if they are trying to smooth things over, they need to try as hard as possible, because SmackDown and the women's division in general really needs Sasha, and Naomi too. I mean, I miss Naomi seeing her on TV. So I think they need to get them back like ASAP, because not only does the SmackDown roster very much need them, but the women's division really needs them as well.
Well, they don't have a tag team division. They've never had a tag team division. They've had they've had championship belts for a division that doesn't exist. I mean,
the women's division, not the tag division.
Oh yeah, no, but just the women's division in general. But I would like for the tag team belts themselves. I mean, they have been nothing but a curse for WWE. Outside of a few glimmers of hope. I mean, even who was it? Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, I think, did an actually credible job. The Iconics for a hot minute were good. You know, that kind of thing. But outside of that, most of the time they have not had a division. Most of the time they've had unopposed champions. I mean, like, they've had maybe one team or no teams in a division. So like either 50% or 100% of the people in the division are champions when you do the math. But so I don't know. I mean, if they come back, I want them to quietly just put the tag belts aside until they have an established tag team division. They put the cart before the horse is what they did. So
yeah, and they also announced when Sasha and Naomi left that they were going to have a tag team tournament, and it's been like a couple months, and they never said anything else about it.
That's all you need to know. I mean, it's not good. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, and they're trying to make them on equal footing with the men, and like I get that, but like you need to lay the groundwork. You can't just create the championship and go, oh, all is well. They're now seeing the problems with that. I mean, so they don't. What they do with the Royal Rumble every year too. There's like 20 legitimate women in the event that are actually employed on a day-to-day basis by WWE, and then they always have those like 10 women that come back from yesteryear that don't need to be in there anymore just to fill the 30 requirement of having a Royal Rumble. They have Lita come back and Summer Rae and like all these people from like 15 years ago that can still halfway cut it in the ring. And it's like, this is an exposure of your own company not being able to create women's wrestlers and successful women's wrestlers. So yeah, they're not where they need to be. At the same time, you look back even just 5 to 10 years ago, and it's like, wow, what a difference. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, that is, I think, going to do it for us tonight, and hopefully we didn't make you think about Ronda Rousey's crotch too much, and that we maybe changed your minds on some things. And definitely, guys, tune into Grace's podcast, the Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast. It's focused on women's wrestling. And we certainly spent a lot on that tonight. But, Grace, do you have anything else to say before we close it out here?
No. Follow me on Twitter, Evolutionary Wrestling. Evolutionary WP on Twitter. Give me a follow. Give me some 5-star reviews, please. It'd be very much appreciated. And go check us out. I really appreciate the support that's been given by Matt, especially. He's helped a lot, helping my podcast by giving me shout outs and give me advice on podcasting in general, so I really appreciate that a lot. And thank you for all the WWE podcast listeners. Y'all are awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And go watch Stranger Things. Anybody that hasn't already, for God's sakes. No spoilers. Yeah, we're
say anything in the Discord.
No, that's a heads up. Yeah, we don't want to know about anything because Volume 2, the Part 2 for Stranger Things Season 4 came out today. So we're all feverishly trying to finish that. And so that's why I'm staying off social media. I scan even more carefully my feed because people put stuff out there. Yeah, so guys, if you haven't seen Stranger Things, I mean, you're missing out. I gotta say, they're not paying me to say that, but yeah, it's good stuff. So, alrighty, well, thanks, Grace. It's been a lot of fun, and enjoy the event and enjoy Stranger Things.
Yeah, you too.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.